Howdy y'all, welcome to Adventures with Kendall. Today we're going on a little trek to see some of the towns along the Transcontinental Railroad. Now it's going to be fun to learn about the communities along the Central Pacific Route, especially the ghost towns. So let's get going and get on board our train and go see the towns along the Transcontinental Railroad. Now before we get started, here's the info you need to know about the towns on our Central Pacific trek eastward to Utah. Along the Transcontinental Railroad route, there were towns and settlements created due to the California Gold Rush. As we leave Promontory Summit and head into Nevada and towards Utah, we will go into some towns along the way that were created by the Transcontinental Railroad. We will explore some of these towns as we head towards Promontory Summit, Utah. Our first state in our Transcontinental Railroad journey is Nevada, and our first stop is the biggest little city in the world, Reno, Nevada. Reno was originally known as Fuller's Crossing after a bridge that allowed trail access across the Truckee River. It was built in 1859 by Charles Fuller to allow access to Virginia City. It became Lakes Crossing in 1861 when Myron Lake bought the bridge and developed a community around it. Once the road had been established, Reno came into being on May 9, 1868. The first passenger train to cross into Reno was on June 18, 1868. Today, Reno is known as the biggest little city in the world. It is Nevada's second largest city and is known for its casino and tourist industry. Now that we have spent our time in Reno, let's head to our next destination, Winnemucca, Nevada. Welcome to Winnemucca, Nevada. The town was named after Chief Winnemucca of the Northern Paiute Indian tribe who lived in the area. By September 16, 1868, the Central Pacific Rail crews reached the town of Winnemucca. And on October 1st of that same year, the first train arrived on the newly opened section of the Transcontinental Railroad. The Chinese track workers who came with the Central Pacific either stayed in Winnemucca after the railroad continued on, or returned to town after the line was completed and start the community's Chinatown. Sitting at the crossroads of Interstate 80 and US Route 95, today Winnemucca is a thriving community. The current economy is supported by large mining, manufacturing, tourism, agriculture, local casinos, restaurants, and hotels. Now that we've learned the history of Winnemucca, let's head to our next destination, Elko, Nevada. Welcome to Elko, Nevada. Elko, Nevada lies along the route of the California Trail. It was first inhabited only in 1868 as the Central Pacific Railroad built its line on the way eastward to Promontory, Utah. The town was founded on December 29, 1868, and the accepted version of that story goes like this. Central Pacific Superintendent Charles Crocker gave the town its name because he was fond of animal names. He simply added the O to the word elk. As the railroad crews moved on from Elko, the town remained as a center for ranching, mining, rail freight, and general supplies. Today, modern gold mining, gambling, and tourism have added to what the city offers. Fun fact, Elko was the terminus of the first commercial air flight in the United States on April 6, 1926. Today, Elko is a city of over 20,000 people, and its nickname is the Heart of Northeast Nevada. It is the largest city for 130 miles in all directions. Elko's economy is supported by gold mining, ranching, casinos, and tourism. Now let's keep going on our trek through Nevada. Our next stop is Wells, Nevada. Originally a place along the California Trail, it was known as Humboldt Wells. It became a stop and railroad town for the Transcontinental Railroad. The town name became Wells during a town fire in the 19th century. In a frantic plea for help, a telegram was sent saying, "Wells is burning." After the town was rebuilt, the name simply became Wells. Wells is an important stop in eastern Nevada. It sits at the junction of Interstate 80 and US Route 93. Now we are entering the state of Utah. Unlike the towns in Nevada, all these are now ghost towns. All were built along the Central Pacific Railroad during the time of its construction and were abandoned after the Loosen Cutoff was created in 1903. We'll look into some of these towns as we head straight to Promontory Summit, Utah. Let's go explore these towns as we head through Utah. Our first stop, the town that gave the Loosen Cutoff its name, Loosen, Utah. This town is now considered a ghost town. It was originally a water stop for the locomotives for the Transcontinental Railroad. The original location for Loosen was located 1 mile north, but the town was moved to its present site when the Union Pacific Loosen Cutoff was constructed in 1903. The town was abandoned in 1936. In 1997, the town site was purchased by Ivor Zdarsky, an aviation and entrepreneur. Our next stop is Terrence, Utah. Established on April 1st, 1869, Terrence was a division point for the Transcontinental Railroad, which included a 16-stall roundhouse and an 8-track switchyard. The town was said to have a population of 1,000, which included a large number of Chinese railway construction workers. When the Loosen Cutoff across the Great Salt Lake was completed in 1904, the rails through town became a rarely used branch line. The railroad facilities in Terrence closed and moved to Monticello, Nevada, about 40 miles away. The rails were abandoned and pulled up in 1942. Only a few red bricks of buildings, the outline of the roundhouse, and a cemetery with 3 headstones remain. Our next stop on our journey is the town of Kelton, Utah. Kelton was inhabited from 1869 to 1942. Once an important stop on the Transcontinental Railroad, it was dependent on the railroad during its entire history. Rail traffic declined after the Loosen Cutoff was built, and rail traffic stopped to Kelton. The rails to Kelton were removed and scrapped for the war effort of World War II. And now we've arrived at our last destination, Promontory, Utah. Promontory Summit was where the Central Pacific and the Union Pacific Railroads finally met to complete the Transcontinental Railroad. During the last phase of construction, this area was known as Promontory City. This was due to the construction workers and materials needed for completing the railroad. By December of 1869, most of the tents, shops, and storefronts were dismantled and moved to other towns. By January 1870, the town population had reduced to approximately 120 people, most of those working for the Central Pacific. The tracks were realigned, a turntable and roundhouse was built, along with a freight depot and locomotive yard. Promontory Summit served as a place for helper locomotives and a maintenance crew to be located. In the late 19th century, the station served as a place where local ranchers and wheat farmers could ship their products to market. When the Loosen Cutoff was completed in 1904, this drastically changed rail traffic. The last passenger train through Promontory was on September 18, 1908. The rails through Promontory Summit were pulled up with an unspiking ceremony on September 8, 1942. Today, the site is now the Golden Spike National Historic Park. We'll get back to this place later in this season. Here we are, at the end of the line, and it looks like a big celebration is going on. Let's head back to the studio and talk about our journey today. I hope you enjoyed our time learning about the communities along the Transcontinental Railroad. It was great learning about the story of the cities such as Reno, Nevada and Promontory, Utah. Speaking of Promontory, we'll be heading back there for 2 weeks to learn about the great work of both the Central Pacific and Union Pacific. It'll be a fun, in-depth look into the history of the railroads leading up to Utah. Anyway, if you have a location for us to go on, comment or email down below. We would love to see your suggestions. And also subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We would love to see your faces. Now that's all the time we have here on Adventures with Kendall. See you later, folks, and may your gifts bless the world.